म्यूट भी है ना।
आप स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं सर, पारिक सर, अनम्यूट करके अपने आप को।
Okay, all right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Today's topic is Book of Life and Mirror of Mind. There are two words here, life and mind. Life came much earlier before the mind came. Mind came much later, maybe in human beings, but life existed on this earth. And even before life came into existence some millions years ago, there was matter. And scientists say that there was a cosmic egg, and then there was a big bang explosion, and all that matter which came out from the egg started moving away from each other, and galaxies and stars and planets were formed. And we don't know how accurate this model is, the scientist model of Big Bang. And they say that there was no time and no space before the Big Bang. And so it is a mystery, and probably nobody knows what created the bang, and then how this matter came into existence, and then came my life, and then mind came. So the life is mostly non-verbal, like in insects, birds, animals. They don't use language. It's only human beings, probably. They have learned the language, and then the thinking and analyzing and mathematics, science, all that came after human beings. And I like to say a little bit about the imagination of a poet about the creation. And there is a very beautiful song sung by Manna Dey, and it says, Upar gagan vishal, नीचे गहरा पाताल, बीच में धरती, वहाँ मेरे मालिक तूने किया कमाल. So it's, and then it says, God created all the moon and all the planets, stars. एक फूंक से रच दिया तूने सूरज अगन का गोला, एक फूंक से रच दिया, एक फूंक से रचा चंद्रमा, लाखों सितारों का टोला. And then created water and fire. All this, it says that created by God. And then later on in the song, it says about a human being. And it says, तूने रचा एक अद्भुत प्राणी जिसका नाम इंसान, जिसकी नन्ही जान के भीतर भरा हुआ तूफान, इस जग में इंसान के दिल को कौन सका पहचान, इसमें ही शैतान छुपा है, इसमें ही भगवान. So it says about a very strange animal called human being was created by God, and in his little mind, which we don't know where the mind is, that there is a tempest, the storm going on in the mind of human beings. And as we see that there is a lot of disturbance in human beings in the present time, a lot of fear anger, and lots of conflicts. Everything has come into human being. The most complex thing, more complex than the brain, is this mind, because brain, even it can be examined by the scientist, but the mind is something which is quite different. And even if scientists are able to understand the brain, I doubt whether they will understand the mind, because in understanding the brain, there is a scientist and then there is a brain. So there is a duality between subject, which is the scientist, and the object, which is the brain. But in understanding mind, there is no such duality, because the mind can be understood only by the mind itself. There is no duality there. And so to understand the mind, it requires silence, patience, curiosity, honesty, to look at what is unfolding, our thoughts and feelings, because every moment our mind is changing. And sometimes there is happiness and suddenly it becomes sad, and sometimes get excited. And so the colors in the mind, they keep on changing. And it's very difficult to understand, because to understand means to see it clearly when it is unfolding. And that is what Krishnaji means book of life. It means that whatever is coming in our life started with the birth, and then we started learning the language, and then we began to speak, and then we began to write. And then this book of life is being written every moment until we die. And so to the book is being written every moment. And the question is whether it can be read, one can read the book as it is being written. That means coming in direct touch with our thoughts and feelings. And that is what real awareness, what Krishnaji is talking about, is looking, seeing non-verbally whatever is unfolding within the mind. And about the mind, there is also a very good song which I would like to present here. It says, तोरा मन दर्पण कहलाए, भले बुरे सारे कर्मों को देखे और दिखाए. Your mind is like a mirror and it shows everything. If the mind is really very, very clean, it can show you if there is a anger, fear is coming, it can be seen. So, and it says, मन ही देवता, मन ही ईश्वर, मन से बड़ा न कोई. And मन उजियारा, जब जब फैले, जग उजियारा होय. That means mind is the God, and there is nothing greater than the human mind. And when there is a light in the mind, the whole world looks very bright and beautiful. So, and it says, इस उजले दर्पण पर प्राणी धूल न जमने पाए. That means don't allow this mirror, the dust to gather on this mirror. That means the mind is very, very clean and silent, And then whatever is happening, it can see everything exactly as it is. And what Krishna ji talks about, moving with what is. And then it says, सुख की कलियां दुख के कांटे, मन सबका आधार, मन से कोई बात छुपे ना, मन के नैन हजार, जग से चाहे भाग ले कोई, मन से भाग न पाए. So it says our happiness and unhappiness, it depends a lot on the quality of our mind. Because if the mind is not very clean and clear, then it will get trapped into many, many problems like fear or anger, conflicts, and all the problems which we see in the world today. It is because this mirror, the mind is not very clean and bright. It is not able to see things very clearly, because why we are not able to see things clearly is because a lot of dust has gathered on our mind through our education also, because in our education in schools and colleges, we learn so many subjects, too much knowledge, and this knowledge then becomes a burden. And then we begin to see everything through the knowledge which we have acquired. And so this is the difficulty, that when we were very young, I think we were able to see things clearly. I have even seen how little children, they look everything like a moon or a butterfly. They look at with very curiosity, and they don't have the desire to gather knowledge about it, but they look. And so that looking without images, without knowledge, is a wonderful thing. And the question is, after gathering all that knowledge which we have, which has become like a burden on us, is it still possible to look clearly without the knowledge interfering, without thinking coming into and distorting the picture? And my understanding, and Krishna ji what says, is that it is still possible for a human being to come back to that state of looking in which there are no thinking, everything is very bright, beautiful. And I understood this only after I came to read a book of Krishnamurti, and that was when I was doing PhD. And that book opened up a new world, and I began to see really everything so beautiful on campus in Iowa State. And I could also begin to feel many changes happening in my body and my brain. And I was also writing about it to Krishna ji. But I was not asking questions, because I don't believe in asking questions, too many questions, like the way Krishna ji asks. Maybe Krishna ji is asking many questions because human beings are still sleeping, and that awareness is not awakened. But and through that question, maybe one can look. And if that looking is very clear, then one doesn't need to read Krishnamurti also, because what he says, we can see it in ourselves unfolding. And so there is a kind of freshness comes in our life. So initially, when before human beings, there were instinct and the birds and animals and insects, they live on instinct. And then human beings, most human beings now live on intellect, and that intellect means ability to think, analyze, mathematics, inventing, science. All that is intellect. But this intellect also creates many problems, conflict in relationship. So even scientists and many intellectual people, they are not still free from many conflicts and fear and desire to become somebody and all that. There are many problems with intellect, though it is very useful in making our life easy. But above intellect, what Krishnaji calls intelligence. And that intelligence means to see between the lines. That means to see the essence of things and thoughts. And that you can also call it awareness. And that intelligence is still not awakened in most human beings. And there is a possibility of awakening of intelligence if human beings really interested deeply, that they feel that this is the most important thing in their life, is to look not with a motive to become somebody, but out of curiosity. And when this becomes the most important thing, it doesn't mean that we give up our everything, science and uh, teaching, and close ourselves in a room and meditate. It's not like that. We have to do our work, but when we have free time, we can, instead of reading newspapers, politics, sports, and so many other things, if we are very curious to look at what is going on, ability to be alone, sit quietly, and very attentively look inside how these thoughts are coming. And maybe initially it is very difficult for most people even to sit alone, because our mind is very restless and it keeps on going round and round in thinking, and it doesn't feel very happy to be alone. And then to look inward is even more difficult. But people who are interested, they can begin to understand. And if and it is not in the books of Krishnamurti, even after reading the book for many years, people still are not able to look clearly, and they have problems of many kinds. So it is the teachings, the real teachings are not the words of Krishnamurti, but what is behind the word. And if a person can understand what Krishnamurti is saying clearly, not through thinking, but listening and looking, then nothing much needs to be done, I think. No need to read books and no need to read even Krishnamurti, because even Krishnamurti's teachings can become like a knowledge. And then through that knowledge, we discuss and argue. And sometimes I find that in dialogue meetings, it doesn't go very well, because everybody knows what Krishnamurti is saying. And we are using Krishnamurti's words, but without realizing what is behind the words. So what I have understood is what we call this mind is made up of two things. One is thinking, thoughts, which are going on. And then there is something else other than thinking, which Krishnaji calls awareness. And thinking or thoughts cannot know or feel what awareness is, but awareness can look at thoughts very clearly. And sometimes to explain what this means, thinking and awareness, I give certain images, like what I saw with a friend on the street of a city in America, that there was a group of people, they were standing in a circle and they were laughing. And we wanted to know why they were laughing. So when we came close, we saw that at the center of the circle, there was a little rat and it had a short tail and it was trying to catch its own tail, but it was not able to. It was going round and round in a circle and it was caught up in that mechanical activity of going round and round. And the rat was not aware that there were people around and they were laughing. So that what happens to us human beings, that when we get caught into thinking, we go round and round, we don't have any clarity, and out of that comes fear, anger, jealousy, and we get caught into it. Like I give a other image, like a spider which creates webs, but the spider doesn't get caught in its own web. Our mind is like a spider and it creates so many webs of thoughts and it gets caught into it. And it doesn't know that it is getting caught into it. That happens because there is no awareness. Another example which I give is like in a room, there are many people and it is a dark room and they are walking in the dark room and they are colliding with each other because there is a darkness. But then someone comes and switch on the light and then these people, now they can walk without colliding with each other because there is a light. So similarly, when there is a light of awareness, these thoughts, they don't create conflict in human relationship. And without this awareness, without this light, I have seen even very highly intellectual people, they get caught into arguments and then they don't listen to each other, like relationship between husband and wife, and they both may be PhD, but they argue, they fight, and day after day, and then they never ask, is it possible to be really live in a different way, you know? So another example I give is about thinking is like a two-dimensional plane. It's like a insect, two-dimensional insect is crawling on the flat surface. It cannot see the whole surface. But if this insect is lifted above, the surface, it can see the whole surface. So I consider thinking is like a two-dimensional surface. And coming out of this two-dimensional thinking, coming into the third dimension is awareness. And that awareness can see everything what the thinking is doing because it is in a different dimension. So I have said many things, but again, I like to remind all of us that these are just the word only, language. And any teacher, spiritual teacher, whether it's Buddha or Krishnamurti or Ramakrishna, they are using some words, but there is something behind the word. It's like one artist who had come to see Krishna ji, and he was a very good artist, but then something happened. He was very much depressed. And then he came to Krishna ji, and during that dialogue, Krishna ji said, the word parrot has blocked you from looking at the thing which flies. So that looking at the thing is what real understanding is, reality. So all these things are really non-verbal. Even Krishna ji was meditating in 1922, and he wrote to somebody that he was going to meditate every day, and he really wanted to look within himself, and he wanted to set everything right, whatever had gone wrong in his life. He wanted to set it right. And then something started happening in 1922, what is called this process. And at the end of that third day, he had an experience of oneness with everything. And it was not a verbal explanation, but he saw that he was the tree, he was the man who was cutting tree, he was the grass. So this was something very non-verbal, a direct, genuine, mystical experience of oneness. And I feel that many people who have written Upanishads, they have written about this non-duality, the experience of I am not separate from the world. And when that experience can happen, when the mind is free from thinking, from this sense of I or me, and that is what love is. Real love, beauty, all these things exist in that sense when the I, me, I am not. So this is the real challenge of any spiritual teaching, whether it's Krishna ji or it is Upanishads or Zen Buddhism, is coming to that state of mind which is very silent and which can really look at what is unfolding. So I have said many things and I can go on, but I don't want to talk much. If people have to make any comment or if they want to ask any questions, you are free. Thank you very much.
चिदानंद जी को जाना है 7 बजे, तो पहले उनसे कमेंट ले ले सर। पारिक सर, चिदानंद जी को जाना है 7 बजे, तो उनसे पहले कमेंट ले लीजिए। तो चिदानंद जी प्लीज।
Unmute. I think now I am.
Yes,
am
we
I
are
audible?
able to listen you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I must say I enjoy, and he always has a very unique way of blending very lofty insights with the simple illustrations and some personal submissions also. In fact, today the extra delight was how he went almost line by line over that very well-known and very famous song where our mind is compared with a mirror. We really appreciated your sharing your reflections on that popular Bollywood song, which of course is quite philosophical in nature. And you have talked about how people are colliding with each other till someone comes and turns the light on. I think that is simple but very important, significant illustration you have shared with us. I'm afraid we go on learning so many, by reading books, so many illustrations, so many metaphors. But the fact remains that it's so difficult to, free ourselves from the darkness that thoughts create in us. Various thoughts fill our mind with so many images, and especially ideas of high and low, ideas of the self. The self is an idea after all. The self is not the truth. The self somehow gets again and again depicted as having lost here, having made a fool of oneself over there, or having once in a while, succeeded, won. This winning, this losing, etc., are all part of that darkness, I guess. And I very much appreciate that illustration of the light. Then no more collision. Maybe that stands for spontaneous right living, which we should not conceptualize. So now, having said a few things, I may request Harshadji to answer one question of mine. Again, on this light, would you say this light that prevents collision, that prevents unnecessary conflicts, would you say that is only attention, or what is the role of maybe study, maybe asking some questions to ourselves? How would you place three things? Study of some really thought-provoking books. Second is dialogue with friends, like we are doing now. And third is we sit and just ask ourselves questions. This which is a thought process. I ask verbally, why did I feel hurt this morning? Why was I so high in my mood this afternoon, etc. I ask, So dialogue with oneself, dialogue with people, and study of books. Where do you place these in relation to just the so-called watching? We talk so much about watching. Can you please share some thoughts on that?
Yeah. Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Very well. I hear very well.
Yeah. Okay. Like I gave an illustration of a rat trying to catch its own tail, and it was not able to. It was going round and round, and after 2 minutes, somebody touched the rat, and the rat moved straight and escaped. So that kind of watching can happen in our life. In my life, it happened by reading Krishnamurti and looking within. And I did not ask question because I feel that when you ask a question, you are limiting yourself, and you have a motive. You want to understand something, but our mind is something which is goes on all the time. It is like a train which is moving, and what we need to do is to get into the train and do nothing and just watch the train is moving. Uh, so this, I don't know, this may work for uh, people, but I find that watching the mind is like watching a soap bubble. When you make a soap bubble, you can see the colors spreading on the soap bubble. And our mind is also so many colors, everything is changing. And on the soap bubble, the whole, everything is reflected, the outside things. So our mind is like a soap bubble with a continuously changing colors, thoughts, feelings. And to watch it is like watching a film. Now, many people are able to watch a film for 2-3 hours, some very interesting films, but or even people watch a video of Krishnamurti, but there is video going on within us. There is a film going on within us all the time. And so to watch this, I find it much more refreshing, very direct, and it is a learning experience to watch myself, the video which is going on. Then watching somebody's video and then thinking about it and then analyzing it, then I find that it becomes a very intellectual activity, and it may be good if you want to discuss with people. But if you want to really learn about oneself, really, directly, direct perception, then one has to be alone and without asking question, look whatever is going on. Sometimes I also give an example of a professor who had studied Krishnamurti's teachings for 30 years, and he could give talks on Krishnamurti in university. And he came to Krishnaji and he said, I have read your teachings for 30 years, but I have not moved, means I have not changed. And Krishnaji said, you have not moved because you have not stopped. So what Krishnaji says by stopping is stop reading and looking directly and forgetting what Krishnaji has said, everything. That is what the way I feel.
Wow.
But I think for different people, it may be different thing. You meet some remarkable man and some new movement starts, a guru or a book. In my case, it was a book of Krishnamurti, which started a new movement in my life. So it could be some experience, somebody dying in the family with whom you are very deeply attached, and then you go to a shock, and then a new movement starts. And if it remains forever, means continuously, then it is wonderful. So there may be many different ways for different people to come to this light within oneself. Okay, thank you.
I'll just permit me to ask one more question. There are many people who say we cannot watch. When we try to watch, we go to sleep. When we try to watch, we hit a blank wall. So should we not read? Should we not talk, etc.? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think Krishnaji used to say that you should write down every thought which comes to your mind. And in this process of writing, just holding a pen and the paper in front of you and writing down any thought which you are able to catch up. Or some yoga teacher say that you do a breathing, a very long systematic breathing that will make your mind quiet, and it will be able to see these thoughts which are going on. So there may be many different methods, and they are all valid methods, I think. I am not against methods. If any method is really helping, I am not like Krishnaji who says, no, it is all useless. No, all these methods are good if it is really helping, Yeah.
Thank you. Really appreciate your answers, your sharing. Please, others should feel free to express their views. I think Mr. Harsh Tanka put a text message that his internet is unstable. He may not be able to interact. I hope the coordinators noticed that text message, chat message.
Yes, I know that. May I request Milind More to comment something? He is a newcomer. Milind More. And then Dinesh Wagmare.
Well, I think I was more interested in listening. So I was quite engaged with that. So I don't have any questions at the moment as such. But I can only say that what Harshad Parekh said about something which caught my attention was about what is. I think it's quite relevant to our lives of moment by moment, of how we move with what is, how we attend to it, how we look at it, how we see it, with respect to everything that we do. I think that's I find it very to understanding. Lightness talking about sea, that's special. I think there is a lot of noise background.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. So I was just saying that what you are touching upon, the aspect of moving with what is something which I find very valuable in my day-to-day life. Or one does, and I think attending to that by itself, giving all the energy that one has to it, is something which is very revealing in one's life. And I would like to stick to that. So at the moment.
Yeah, I would like to say something about this moving with what is. Like the light moves very, very fast, 186,000 miles per second. And Einstein said that if a person can move with light, there is no chronological time. The time stops, the time by the watch. That comes from the theory of relativity. Similarly, I feel that if one can move with the mind, the thinking stops, and then there is no psychological time. So moving with what is nothing but stopping of psychological time. Thinking stops. And that is what I think David Bohm and Krishnaji were talking about, ending of time. And that is that real challenge.
Dinesh Wagmare. Dinesh Wagmare, please unmute and ask question.
Yeah, you can. Yes, Dinesh.
Sir, I want to ask one question to Harshad sir. You have equated awareness with intelligence. But this intelligence, I just want to go into dialogue, or I want to just explore whether the intelligence is same as awareness, because Krishnamurti has indicated at various places that there is a silent mind. In that silent mind, which is not absence of noise, in that there is intelligence comes into picture, and there is a creativity. And he has not equated both the things as the same thing, like intelligence and awareness. Many times he has also indicated that negation to the known is attention into unknown. So what does he really mean by that? If the intelligence is something unmanifested and it comes into picture only when the man is empty of his mind and all that, or a mind has reached to a level where he has understood the whole structure and he has gone beyond, or he has understood the whole game which you said. I want your views on this.
Yes, there are many words Krishnaji uses, sometimes awareness, intelligence, perception, attention, and so many words. But I don't analyze each of these words. What I understand by intelligence is to look at the essence, to read between the lines, means to see the thing behind the external appearance. And so that is what I call awareness. And I use only that word, or intelligence I use. And sometimes Krishnaji says perception is the action. That means when you see something very, very clearly, like if you see that anger is arising in you, and then there is a clear seeing, then that anger will stop. So perception is the action. But again, this is a kind of awareness only, you know. So scholars, they may like to analyze different words, but I am not a scholar. I'm not an intellectual. I'm more interested in looking at what is. And so I cannot answer all these different words. I use only very simple word like awareness or intelligence.
Okay, sir, because he has also used the word insight. And he has used also, 3 things. Yeah. Perception is action, no reaction is revolution, and no action is transformation.
Right, yeah. So this happens because you are thinking about what Krishnaji said. And so when you think, then there will be this kind of doubts will arise. But in looking, there is no doubt. It's just looking at what is. So our main problem, as Krishnaji said, freedom is at the beginning, he says. Freedom to look. And if there is a thinking, then it is not looking. So the problem is the beginning. How do you look at anything? How do you study a book, whether it is a Upanishad or Zen or Krishnamurti or Osho or somebody, and you may find if you are reading through the image you have about Osho, then even if he says something very good, you will say, no, he is not good. So how do we really read anything, whether it is by Osho or Krishnamurti or Zen Buddhism? So that freedom at the beginning is very, very important. So freedom is not at the end, it is at the beginning. And that kind of freedom will come when a person is really curious, not in understanding words and ideas and concepts, but looking at what is. So that is the difference between trying to understand and understanding. It means seeing clearly.
Yes, sir. Really, I'm really very curious because one side we say that thought is different from awareness, but awareness can look at the thought. But thought,
Yeah,
and one side we talk of non-duality. So in non-duality, thought and your awareness should be. I don't see any difference in that.
Yeah, it is like there is a space and there is a matter, like our body is a matter, and around us there is a space. So there is a duality, right? And our body exists in the space. Similarly, when awareness is awakened, a thought comes in that awareness, and that thought goes away, and the awareness remains like that. So there is no duality actually.
This awareness is also product of life.
I don't know from where awareness comes. I think it is in the mind, and maybe human beings have the mind, and there is a thinking and there is awareness. But there are too many thoughts, very thick layer of thoughts, which prevents the awareness to come from the bottom, because the awareness is blocked, and there are only on the surface, there are dense thoughts only. Now, if by some way, by some method, or if it happens that there is a gap between the two thoughts, that means there is a discontinuity in thinking, then that awareness has a chance to come from that gap and come above, and then it can look at. So awareness is there, but it is hidden under dense clouds of thinking. And all we know is mostly thinking, and through thinking we are asking questions, and through thinking we are investigating. So we are going round and round.
Thank you, sir.
सच्चिदानंद जी, सच्चिदानंद
चिदानंद जी, आप बोलिए.
सच्चिदानंद.
Yes, sir. I've unmuted now. Yeah. So, I mean, Kay also has spoken about, awareness and attention both are in reality, whereas perception is not of that. It is not of reality. He very clearly says about, what is choice is awareness, what is attention, and something beyond that. But if I'm saying all three are one, I mean, not back to my conditioning. It's my own interpretation of what things are. And the other thing is, it's about the questioning. When I say I don't question, I just observe. When I'm observing, do I not question that, sir? When I see something, I may not question that is what I would like to know. Because he has spoken about the art of questioning myself. And it is, how do I look at it? When I say I don't question, then how do I look at things?
Okay.
That's my question, sir.
Yeah, it's that in awareness, these questions come, answer also come, but they come and go. But this awareness remains. So there is no conflict with questioning also. I am not saying that you must not question, but question may come, genuine question, not intellectual questions. Because intellectual questions doesn't have much life, but when the question is very genuine, very real, then your mind will stop, and then you will look, and then you may find that there is nothing to look. That is what I feel. So I'm not against questioning. Yeah. Yes.
So when you say awareness has to be there, I mean, is awareness is moment to moment, or again, I'm caught in the tradition that I'm aware, that's over, period? How do I understand awareness is in the moment to moment, sir?
Yes. Yes. Awareness may also go sometimes, and then thinking will take over, and then it will go round and round, and it may create many problems. And then if you become aware again, then that the whole thing may go away.
So you're saying we have to become aware. I mean, again, I'm back in time, sir. I mean, it's how again. He also spoke about attention. He says it has a quality of love. I love you, therefore I receive you profoundly. Therefore, communication is not verbal, and that is not enough. He says. I mean, he's saying the next question he's talking about. Consciousness being completely empty. So when I talk about awareness and attention, I mean, it is that doesn't lead me to perception. It is a process. I mean, it's only a choice of awareness and attention, and that out of that attention there may be perception. So how do I look at that is a question. So like you also spoke about freedom. I mean, how do I understand what freedom is? If I'm interpreting all the time, if I'm coming to certain conclusions based on my likes and dislikes, biases and prejudices, I mean, is there a freedom in that? My own interpretation of what K is talking about. K said, I mean, don't read me. He says, see that it is about yourself. When I read K, it is not I'm reading K or trying to understand K. I'm trying to understand myself.
Yeah.
So when I say I should read K or should not read K, again I'm back to square one.
Yeah.
Tarun Jain.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. May I answer that?
Okay.
Okay.
Please
Anandji,
go on. Please go on.
Anandji, what I am saying is that when you say I am looking at the question, what is the nature of that looking?
So when I perceive something, sir, when I go out, now if I'm going out into the forest and looking at trees and plants and birds and animals, because somebody has said that, is that what perception is all about? So that has become my usual habit. I'm getting pleasure out of it. And I see that pleasure is dictating my action. I go every day. I go out for my walks. I'm watching that. When I'm watching, it gives me a lot of pleasure. And that I call happiness. I'm looking at that. Is that what seeing a beautiful face, seeing beautiful plants, beautiful sunrise, is that what it is? I call that it's beautiful. Is that what beauty is?
I can talk about it, but there are many other people, they may like to make comment or want to ask questions.
Tarun Jain sir, please unmute and ask. Tarun Jain sir, are you here?
Yeah. Hello, Tarun. I'm not able to hear you, Tarun. Not hear you. No, I don't hear you.
Yeah. He seems.
हेलो.
Yeah.
हाँ, सुन पा रहे हैं?
हाँ.
तो बोला गया चर्चा में कि अवेयरनेस कहाँ से आती है ये पता नहीं. दूसरा, जब थिंकिंग है तो अवेयरनेस नहीं है. तो जो एक कंसेप्ट बनता है, अवेयरनेस तो हर एक के अंदर है और थिंकिंग कभी उसमें कोई ट्रबल क्रिएट नहीं करती. ये अटैचमेंट होता है हमारा, जो देखने के पर्सपेक्टिव को बदल देता है. जब हम कोई साइंस की थ्योरी समझ रहे होते हैं तो उसमें हमारा कोई ड्यूलिटी नहीं होती है, अपना पराया या सही गलत या कोई पक्ष में हम खड़े नहीं होते. हमें खाली एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग के जाना होता है. थिंकिंग उसमें बराबर काम करती है और थोड़ी देर की थिंकिंग के प्रयास से वो चीज़ बिल्कुल आत्मसात हो जाती है और जिंदगी भर के लिए वो कंसेप्ट क्लियर हो जाता है. और अवेयरनेस और इंटेलिजेंस सब इसमें मदद करते हैं, कोई परेशानी क्रिएट नहीं करते. थॉट्स के बारे में बोला गया कि वो पॉइजन क्रिएट करते हैं. तो थॉट्स जो है वो किसी में बड़ा एंथुसिज्म भी क्रिएट करते हैं किसी को उत्साहित करते हैं, किसी को प्रेरित करते हैं, कोई थॉट से ही कल्याण की ओर चला जाता है। थॉट्स का खाली एक निगेटिव एस्पेक्ट हमेशा पेश करना, ये अपनी कमजोरी को थॉट के ऊपर लादने वाली बात है। हमारा अपना अफेक्शन जो है, किसी चीज के प्रति हम इतने ज्यादा बायस्ड हो चुके होते हैं अपने किसी एक टेम्पररी अनुभव को लेकर, कि हमारे को जो विचार है, अपना अफेक्शन हम पे भारी पड़ता है, थॉट कभी हम पे भारी नहीं पड़ते। जैसे जिसके प्रति आपका ज्यादा अफेक्शन है, उसके प्रति होने वाला कोई भी संभावित नुकसान भी आपको डिस्टर्ब करता है, और वो आपको पॉइजन आपके अंदर क्रिएट करता है। लेकिन वही कोई चीज जो आपको प्रेरित करती है, आगे बढ़ने के लिए दौड़ाती है, तो ललक के आदमी कूद के आगे भागता है। उधर भी थॉट्स काम करते हैं, ये कर डालूंगा, ऐसा बना डालूंगा, ऐसा हो जाएगा, ये भी तो थॉट्स है। ये क्या पॉजिटिव प्रोसेस नहीं होती थॉट्स की? और दूसरा अवेयरनेस वाली बात है, तो अवेयरनेस तभी काम करती है जब हम उसमें अटैचमेंट नहीं रखते हैं, ना पॉजिटिव साइड की ना नेगेटिव साइड की। जब हम प्योर अवेयरनेस में होते हैं तो थॉट्स अपना काम करते हैं, लेकिन अफेक्शन ना होने से अटैचमेंट नहीं होता, अटैचमेंट नहीं होने से इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं होता, और तब हम दृष्टा भाव में रह के चीज को एंजॉय कर पाते हैं और कंप्लीटली अंडरस्टैंड कर पाते हैं, जिसको आप वाचिंग कह रहे हैं। लेकिन वाचिंग और थिंकिंग कभी भी एक दूसरे के विरोधी नहीं होते। ये उस केस में होते हैं कि जब हम देखना कुछ चाहते हैं और दिख हमें कुछ रहा होता है, तो हमें स्वीकार्यता नहीं होती है। हम ऑलरेडी बायस्ड बैठे होते हैं कि हम ये देखना चाहते हैं, पर एक्चुअलिटी उससे डिफर करती है, और ये जो डिफरेंस की स्वीकार्यता हमारे अंदर नहीं बनती, ये हमारे अंदर पॉइजन थॉट और ये तमाम तरह की निगेटिविटी क्रिएट करती है। तो चीज को अब इस तरह से एक्सप्लेन करना क्या ये उचित है? मेरा निवेदन ये है कि थॉट्स जो है वो पॉइजन ही है, ऐसा नहीं है। थॉट्स जीवन का सृष्टिकर्ता भी बनते हैं, और कईयों के लिए पॉजिटिव थॉट्स जो है जीवन का निर्माण बना देते हैं, जीवन की दशा बदल देते हैं। इंटेलिजेंस जो है वो बुद्धि का अपना काम होता है, लेकिन जब इसमें बायसिंग नहीं होती तो काफी कुछ इंटेलिजेंस दुनिया में काम करता है। और थिंकिंग के बगैर आगे नहीं बढ़ा जा सकता, कि कोई थिंकिंग होती ही नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है। थिंकिंग तो होती है, उससे अफेक्शन नहीं होता। जानना और देखना किसी भी जीवित प्राणी का किसी अवस्था में रुकता नहीं है।
अच्छा, आप स्टॉप कीजिए। मैं कहता हूं और कृष्ण जी भी कहते हैं कि थिंकिंग कैन नॉट सॉल्व आवर साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम्स। कृष्ण जी सेज थिंकिंग इज द प्रॉब्लम. So I have come across many people like my professor with whom I did PhD in America. He was very, very good professor with many awards, many books, many articles. But something happened in his life. His wife and child ran away from him because he was very ambitious, and he did not care about his family. And so when the wife and child ran away, this professor was very unhappy, though he was very intelligent. He could use thinking for his research. Similarly, another professor of mechanical engineering, whose office was in front of my office in Canada, and that professor also was well known, and one day he committed suicide because some family problems. So thinking is useful. I am not against thinking, but without awareness, thinking creates many problems of psychological nature. Thinking can solve our problems of building bridges, making machines. Thinking has made our life very, very useful, very easy, our life. But thinking has created fear, and these countries are fighting in the names of nationality, religion. It is all because of thinking without awareness. So I'm not against thinking. Thinking can also, there is a positive thinking and there is a negative thinking. But there is something else beyond positive thinking and negative thinking, and that is called awareness. And in that awareness, there is real beauty, real love exists in that, when that sense of I or me doesn't exist, because this sense of I or me comes from thinking only. If there is no thinking, there is no sense of I. And then everything is what it is. There is no duality. Duality is created by thinking and the thinker. So I don't know you understand this thing. I'm not against thinking, but without awareness, thinking creates many problems, psychological nature. Yeah. Yes. I'm not able to hear Tarun Jain.
Arun Jain. Arun Jain. Arun Jain. Tarun Jain. There is no Arun Jain. Tarun Jain, do you want to say anything more?
He is speaking, but not able to hear.
Okay.
Anyone else would like to?
Yeah. Anyone other than Tarun Jain साहब?
हेलो हेलो
बोल रहे हैं तरुण? हाँ बोलो.
हाँ मैं ये कह रहा था कि बोले रियल लव की बात की गई, क्या एक भी एग्जाम्पल दिया जा सकता है दुनिया में जिसमें रियल लव एग्जिस्ट करता है? हिस्ट्री में एक भी एग्जाम्पल दिया जा सकता है जैसे प्योर लव है, रियल लव है?
ओके, आपने क्वेश्चन किया. ये लव की बात करते हैं, ये सब्जेक्टिव है, ये साइंस की बात नहीं है, सबको नहीं दिखा सकते हैं. तो it cannot be
बगैर स्वार्थ के कोई लव एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता दुनिया में. कुछ ना कुछ पोर्शन उसमें स्वार्थ का जरूर होता है.
Okay. One can justify what one has understood, that thinking what love is different than attachment. In attachment, there is fear, loneliness, anger. I myself have gone through all these feelings in my life when I was deeply attached to somebody, but I was also looking. And then I could come out from this attachment. And then I really understood what Krishnaji says, that love is completely different than attachment. In love, there is no sense of I or me. It's complete clarity, a sense of well-being, and there is no loneliness. So this cannot be shown to people because it is a subjective feeling. You cannot teach love to anybody. You can only say what is attachment. So only when, and all these many doubts, many questions will arise as long as there is no clear seeing. And in clear seeing, there are whatever is coming, questions, doubts can be seen, but it will come and go. Questions come, answers come. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, like truth cannot be seen or described. So if I ask about love, I have to see it myself. I have to, asking someone else is not going to help. There are thousands of people, thousands of so-called saints have existed for the last 5,000-10,000 years. They have said what it is. Even today, I don't understand. Can I look at that is more important. Not asking someone else what it is or it is not. It is the unknown. The known cannot know the unknown.
Yes.
Oh, sir.
Yes, it is true. I feel that once this awareness is awakened in a human being's life, that person will feel that there is something new has happened. And I think it is also related to the quality of our brain, because as long as our brain does not change in quality, this sense of looking, awareness, love, beauty, it will remain only theoretical. So only those people who have gone through this, what Krishnaji calls mutation of the brain cells, those who have felt that their brain has changed. And that is what Krishnaji wanted, to create a new brain in human beings. But talking about it, discussing about it, and really changing the brain is quite a different thing, you know. So only when something really happens in your life and this awareness is awakened, the person will really feel that, yeah, now you are looking at everything in a different way than the way you looked before. Before, you are looking and thinking what's going on. When you looked at the tree, when you looked at people, you remember what that person did to you, the anger or fear, all that came. But when this awareness comes, there is an absence of all these reactions. And then it cannot be shown to other people, you know, that it cannot be proved by any scientific experiment that such a state of awareness exists in human beings. Okay, I have finished.
So can I say that as long as the me is there, I will not know what love is. The question is, am I willing to end the me? Then I would know what love is. I'm putting it in quotes. So am I willing to end the me is the question.
Yeah.
Not what love is. First, I have to look at it. Am I going to end that me, my pleasures and my fears? Am I willing to end that to know what that is?
Yes. And what is that I am willing? You know, what is that I?
So I want to know what love is. So the question is, am I willing to, or you know, can I see as long as the me is there, I will which is the known, I will not know the other.
Yeah, right. That is true. But when you ask, can me end? Then again, what do you do after that? You know.
No, I mean that's what I mean. See, I'm in comfort zone. I'm not willing to move out of my comfort zone. Can I see that is the question? Because if I see some danger, I act. But I don't want to see the danger. As I've always said, you know, there is danger which is taking place on the planet besides your COVID. The COVID has come now, we are using masks. I mean, the people in Delhi, so much of pollution was there. Many of them were not using them. When I get to know this COVID is going to have an effect on me, I start using it. I see the danger, I act. So I don't see the danger. Can I look at that is the question.
But to look, you require freedom at the beginning, you know.
Again, I don't understand, sir, what freedom means. The moment I come to conclusions, the moment I'm operating from a conditioning, the moment I like someone or dislike someone, if I'm biased and prejudiced, I have my fears, I mean, there's no freedom.
Right, yes.
The question is, I have to see whether I'm free. I'm not free. So if free doesn't mean that I can do whatever I want, you know, we have got independence from the British and things like that. That is all it physically. But we're talking about the psychological aspect of it. Freedom means, I mean, when there is the fear is not there, when I don't not my conclusions, and also my authority, like saying this is what it is. The moment I say this is what it is, I mean that is where the authority is, and I'm not free. So can I see what freedom actually means?
Mm-hmm.
So the first step is the last step is I'm not free there.
Yeah. Yes. I think you are asking the question to be free.
I didn't ask that question to you. I mean, someone said about love, and you brought in the freedom also. So I'm saying, without freedom, you know, I mean, it's very difficult. That's what I'm saying. When I talk about freedom, I have to be free from my conclusion, from my conditioning, from the authority, from the likes and dislikes, biases and prejudices. That's what I'm saying. So that is what it is.
Yes.
To understand the unknown, the known has to end. That's my point.
Yes. Yes. And freedom is really frightening, because freedom means means freedom from the self, and the self doesn't want to end because it is attached to something or somebody, you know. So generally, most people are not interested in freedom because freedom is very frightening. It is unknown, as you say. So all one can do is to ask questions and live with the questions. And I don't know whether it can bring any freedom from asking questions, you know, because I am talking about freedom from the self means there is no questions also, no doubts also. It's just looking.
So if I have to ask the question, sir, there has to be pain in me, not just to ask questions. Do I really feel that? That is what is important. You can ask all kinds of questions. I mean, is there God? Is there? God is not there? You know, we can do all that thing. But I mean, what do you call? I mean, I'm just using the word sincerity or honesty. I mean, it's not the exact word. But can I see it is not there? The pain is not. It's only when there is a problem, then I want to look at it. Otherwise, I don't bother to look at it. I don't want to question, because questioning again, you know, it's going to disturb my comfort zone. I'm in comfort zone all the time, and I don't want to be disturbed. I mean, do I see that is the question?
Yeah. Yeah. Many people don't ask questions because it may lead to something else than what they are living with, something different. And then there are some people, they don't ask questions because then they are able to just see what is. There is nothing to discover, only to see whatever is unfolding. So these two are different states. It's like a child looks at something like a moon, doesn't know what is that thing is called moon. And then there is a mystic who looks at the moon. There is a difference between the child and the mystic who looks without images. The child is unconsciously perfect, whereas the mystic is consciously perfect. That means is free to look, you know. So you are talking about people don't ask questions because they are used to certain way of living and they don't want to get disturbed.
But I am putting a question mark. That is a question mark. Yeah. I'm not saying that is what it is. I'm just questioning.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is some people don't ask questions because they see that whatever is unfolding, it is saying whatever needs to be known.
Uncomfortable,
yeah.
Can I say a few words if the time permits? It's already 7.
Yeah. You can say.
Actually, yes.
Please go on.
Yeah, these are very important questions, and I feel before we come to the understanding of freedom or love, I mean that's a question for me. Perhaps many of you have understood this, but for the question for me is that before I come to a question of freedom or understanding what love is, can I come closer to questions which affect my life on a day-to-day basis? For example, can I be free of anger? It's a struggle for me. I mean, for many of us, can I be free of envy or greed? Can I see that? And some of the pointers which I see in my as I live my life is the pointers are that when I'm in a state of joy or when I'm in a state of happiness, there is no thought. The thought exists when I'm in a state of conflict. The thought exists when I'm in a state of anger. I can see the division within me. I can see the duality within me, but it is not there when I'm in a state of joy, when I'm in a state of happiness, when I'm kind of totally at peace with myself. Perhaps that may also point out towards a state of freedom, but I'm saying so hesitantly. So the question for me is that why is it that I'm quite aware about my being in a state of conflict. When I say I'm aware, which means the thought process is going on. And the way I understand is that the fact that the thought process is going on, it means that there is something unresolved, there is something which is not understood by me, or I have not seen it clearly. Because if I see something clearly, the thought doesn't remain there. It is dropped. And so I see these two things very clearly. So for me, the question is, when I talk about freedom, can I be free of simple things in my life, which are creating that consciousness within me about myself? I don't know if I'm made it clear, but this is what I feel, that the moment I am free of my own consciousness, I think, I don't know whether I think would be the right word, but there is a sense of freedom.
Right. Yes, you have said very rightly. We all have to first look at our daily life relationship, because relationship is the mirror in which we understand. So when there in the daily life, if there is conflict with people, we have to look at it. Why, what is behind it? Or if there is even loneliness, boredom, jealousy, fear, anger, all this, the root of all these things is in the thinking. And so if one wants to really see the beginning of any problem of this nature, one has to look with great curiosity, honesty, passion, and want to really go to the root of it. When such passion comes in our life, then it may be very disturbing to look, but still it is worth looking, because sometimes I say that there is a treasure buried within all of us, but around this treasure, there are snakes guarding the treasure. So when we try to look within ourselves, we see only the snakes like fear, anger, jealousy. So we run away from ourselves and we involve ourselves in reading Krishnamurti or watching a video or discussing. And so we don't like to come in touch with ourselves because we are frightened of ourselves. But if we are not frightened of these snakes, we can tame these snakes, make our friend, then we can really touch the treasure. And such treasure exists in all human beings, like Mirabai and Kabir. Mirabai says, Ram Ratan Dan Payo, Kharche na Phute, Chor na Lute, Din Din Badhat Savayo. So it is a kind of treasure which doesn't become less with time, and it cannot be stolen by thieves. And Kabir said, Tere paas heere moti, mere man mandir mein jyoti, kaun hua dhanwan. So such a person doesn't care much about money, even if he gets a lot of money or fame. A person who is free, that is the greatest happiness, the greatest treasure. So we are capable, all human beings are capable of going within us and finding that treasure within us, as it has been found by many people in the past. And Krishnamurti found it, Buddha found it, and so many. So it depends on how much we are really deeply passionate about this. Yes.
So here my question is, I mean, why do I want to end anger when I enjoy it? I say I'm right, you are wrong. Okay, you say something to me, I get very angry because, you know, I say I'm on the right. So why do I want to end my anger? And it also, my anger tells me I'm alive. My conflict tells me I'm alive. So why would I want to? I don't know about the other saints, what they have said about treasure and other things. I don't want to go into that aspect of it. But can I observe that anger, I mean, it gives me, makes me alive.
Okay.
So
yeah, then it will remain.
Yeah, then it will remain. Why that I wouldn't want it is a question. Can I look at that as a question? I'm not looking at any treasure and this and that. That's a different. I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to shift to that the other side. But I am saying, can I also understand that me is my anger is the me? Question.
Yeah. No. Is this anger is a pleasure or a pain? Doesn't it create many problems to the body by being angry?
That me says I'm alive. Can I look at that? Without the me, I'm nothing. I don't want to be nothing. Though nothing, it said something profound. You know, I'm not going that aspect of nothing, but I'm saying I don't want to be. I want to be somebody all the time. Can I see that as a question? Right now, my response is also that. Can I observe that, my own response? So why would I say I don't want anger?
Why do you ask question? Because you say anger is, you don't want to end it. So why ask question then?
It gives me pleasure. Yeah, it gives me pleasure. I mean, can I observe that as a question? Because someone says, you know, don't have anger, don't have jealousy. I said, I don't want to, I'm going to have happiness, you know, I'm going to, you know, all that. But that is not true. Can I observe what the truth is, what the fact is? The fact is that anger is me. Can I see my own conflict? I don't want it at the same time. I want it at the same time. Okay, that's where the conflict arises also. One part says it shouldn't be there. Other part says, you know, I'm alive because of that. That shows that I'm living.
Yes.
That's a contradiction. That's my contradiction. Can you observe that as a question?
Yes. So the question is coming from contradictions only. So it will remain that way, it seems to me, unless there is a freedom to look. You know.
Should we end now, sir? Parikh, sir, time is over. Can we end now with the question?
Yes,
thank you very much, sir. I enjoyed the lecture. Everybody must have enjoyed it. So thank you very much. Sir, please be associated with Thursday meeting. Please be associated with us. That's my